Place movie review. This is the Fairly Good Show where we would talk about movies, gaming, entertainment, Twitch, and all kinds of other things. We just had our first podcast today, and now we're going to be talking about A Quiet Place, which I went and saw about a week and a half ago. And it was incredible. I'm going to rate movies on a 1 through 10 scale. I'll be giving the review at the end, but I can tell you already I liked it a lot. 5 being average. Keep that in mind too when I do the review score. So first of all, when you go to see the movie, please don't go see it at a busy time. Go in like 2 in the afternoon, or wait till it comes out on DVD if you have a really busy theater or just don't want to go see it in the movie theater. But I recommend you do, because the people that are there, if it's not super packed, it's a really interesting movie experience because everyone is quiet. It's what the movie's all about. There's very little dialogue in the movie, and it's an insane movie experience as far as being in somewhere where you can hear people 10 rows behind you eating popcorn. I don't think I've ever been to a movie theater where that's ever happened before. And the first part of the movie review that we're doing will be all non-spoilers, and then I'll have a cut where I say, okay, this is where I'm going to talk about some of the stuff in the movie. And I recommend don't spoil the movie for yourself. So, I mean, mute the stream for a couple minutes. I'll put up something so you guys know when the spoilers are happening. For people that are watching live. The Twitch highlighter is not accurate. It'll just get you saying the countdown. No, it'll be fine. You can do it by seconds. Star Wars sneaks away tiptoe. So the movie itself, really good acting. It's here, I'll pull up all the people that are in it because I want to get their names. So it was directed by John Krasinski, who plays Jim from The Office, which had a lot of people were very skeptical about. Okay, is it going to be funny or is it going to be good? He's a really good actor. Looks nothing like he does in The Office. And his wife, who is actually his real life wife, Emily Blunt. So he directs it and stars in it. And that can also get kind of weird with movies when you have the director starring in the movie. But I wouldn't have, like, if nobody told me that, I would have never thought that by the way it was directed. And everyone that's watching the review, you can also tune in live at twitch.tv/Pharaoh when I do these podcasts. At the end of the podcast, I'll do a movie review because I have a movie pass where I go to see a movie at least once a week. So anyways, the movie itself, Quiet Place. Really good acting, superb directing. There's very little dialogue, and that's why the movie works. It makes you feel on the edge of your seat. There's a lot of tension. In a sense, it is a monster movie. It's not really a horror movie. It's more of I would classify it as a thriller. So don't go in thinking it's going to be a horror movie because it's not a good horror movie at all. It's definitely a thriller. It brings a lot of suspense. This really showed how much diversity John Krasinski has. Yeah, I definitely agree. He's played some other serious roles, but I haven't really seen a lot of them. So this is kind of like, I think for a lot of people, it's the moment where they break away from The Office and see what he's like as a serious actor. And then there's also 2 child actors. I don't know their names off the top of my head. They also did a really good job because, again, children actors, there's a lot of elements that could really like run this movie off the rails. And the child actors were amazing too. One of them is deaf in real life, and she plays deaf in the movie, obviously because she is. And she taught sign language to the actors, and they used a mixture of some like real sign language and some like family made up sign language that they had between all of them in the movie as they communicated in silence, which you guys can see that in the theater or in the trailer. So, that's pretty much it. Without giving a lot of the movie away, it's about a family that survives in a environment where they're hunted down by monsters that track you by sound. So you have to be quiet. So the movie itself is quiet. Millicent Simmons, Noah Jupe, and Cade Woodward are the 3 kids that are in it. Okay. The girl actress that's deaf, she was probably the strongest of all 3 of them, and she carried the movie without even really saying much. just by the way, just by her facial expressions and the way she was kind of moving throughout the scenes. She was very close to being like one of the lead people in the movie, I would say, if not one of the leads, if she was casted that way. But yeah, that's pretty much the movie itself. I would rate it, 5 being average. I would rate it a 7 out of 10. So it's above average. It's not quite amazing, but for John Krasinski's first movie, I would say it's definitely worth going to see because it's very different. The CGI is pretty good. The setting itself seems very realistic. It's set on a farm in the near future. And without giving any spoilers away, that's the movie, 7 out of 10. So thank you for watching. If you'd like to stay tuned for the spoilers, don't ruin the movie for yourself because it's not worth it. Please go see it. I'm going to put up a spoiler thing if people that are watching it live, and you guys can unmute after the spoiler words go away. Let's see. How do I do that? Spoilers. How was the music? It was very light. It wasn't a big part. It wasn't a big part of it wasn't a big part of the movie. There was moments where it was like tense, but it wasn't used a whole lot. At least when I watched it, it wasn't very memorable. Okay. Yeah, like I said, the music wasn't. It was used in like tense moments when they were like when the monsters were attacking, but it wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't over the top. Like it wasn't used like when they were just walking around. Everything was very quiet. So, anyways, getting to spoilers, the movie itself, um, seemed a little hokey by the way that how they found out about killing the monsters. So the way they found out about killing the monsters, and again, I don't want to ruin the movie for you. So if you haven't seen this, please skip through this and come back and watch it after you've seen the movie. They find out by basically a radio frequency of feedback, like going through a loop, and is hurting the monsters because they're prone to sound. John Krasinski's character is working on a hearing aid for his child that's deaf, and they keep breaking, like they're not working right. That they don't help her hear any more than what she already can, which she can hear like muffled sounds. He makes one last hearing aid for her, and she puts it on, and she just hears like a loud like high pitched noise every once in a while, and when the monsters are near, and she doesn't realize that actually is what can stop them if she amplifies it enough, which she figures out at the end of the movie, which is how they are able to weaken them so Emily Blunt's character can kill them. That part seems a little. It makes sense. It just seems like the way they played it out at the very end seemed a little cheesy. I like that they ended it. They ended the movie with them killing the first one that attacked them, and then in the whiteboard in the movie itself, it says there's supposedly 3 monsters in the area, and the other 2 come sprinting at them at the last second, and she loads the shotgun, and then all of a sudden the movie ends. And the movie kind of takes itself less serious at that point because the movie's very like gloom and doom and dark and quiet through the whole movie. And now that they figured out how to kill them, it gets, I wouldn't say hokey, but it gets a little more upbeat. And I actually like that. I like they ended it. They didn't show them killing the other 2 monsters. It was just like, it's done. John Krasinski's character kills himself off in the movie itself, like towards the very end. And there's a ton of foreshadowing for everything that happens in the movie. Like John Krasinski's character killing himself off is foreshadowed. The hearing aid thing is foreshadowed like 3 times in the movie if you're paying attention. There's just a lot of like little things that if you're like, once you see one of them, it's like, oh, like that's going to be on like later in the movie. So watching a lot of movies, that was kind of annoying to me too, because I could see what they were doing, like as they were showing it to you, like, oh, hint, hint, this is going to happen. Like, okay, cool. Early on in the movie, when John Krasinski is traveling with his son, they come across an old man that just lost his wife to a monster, and he wants to just die. He's just sad and upset, and so he just looks like up at John's character and just starts screaming, and then the monsters take him and kill him. That's exactly what John does at the very end of the movie to save his kids. And there's numerous occurrences of things like that happening to the movie if you're watching it and paying attention to it. I actually want to go watch it again to see if I can catch anything else, because it was like half of the movie where I'm like, wait a minute, they're hinting at a lot of different things. Another thing that a lot of people are talking about is the waterfall scene. He's explaining to his son when they go out on that same journey where they're going to get supplies. They're like, hey, if there's a noise near us that's louder than us talking, the monsters can't hear us talking. That was it was a pretty smart way to explain, like, you know, the basic environment, how sound works to the monsters, especially like to a kid and obviously to the audience. So like, hey, there's a waterfall that's very loud. If we stand near it, we can scream and the monsters can't hear us. And one of the big arguments is like, okay, if there's a waterfall where they're safe, why don't they just build their home near the waterfall? And it's like, yeah, maybe, but they live on a farm that's self-sustaining, that they've lived in their whole life, and they're not that far away from the waterfall where they get fish and water and everything else. So it kind of wouldn't make sense, I don't think, to like uproot your whole life and move to the waterfall, because you'd probably make a lot of noise doing that, and you'd probably lose somebody in the process of doing that. So the way they have their farm set up is that's where they get all their food, obviously, and they also fish in the river. And then they have lights set up all around along the farm with paths of sand, so they can walk on the sand. They don't wear any shoes; they're all barefoot, so they don't make any noise. Again, like, some of it's really well thought out and makes a lot of sense. Whenever there's an attack or something bad happens, there's a switch that they hit, and then all the lights turn red, and which is a really cool effect. It looked really good in the movie, and that's what you actually see on the cover of the like the billboard, the kiosk thing for the movie at the movie theaters is usually like a farmhouse with red lights in the front of it. So there's a lot of like really cool iconic images. Like when Emily Blunt had her baby, she was in the bathtub. That's another iconic image that they like put on the front. So there was a lot of good moments. Just parts of it seemed like a little cheesy or a little just like out of place of the movie itself. But all in all, I really enjoyed it. I thought the quiet thing would get old after a while, and they remedy that with towards the end of the movie. They make a underground living area. Yeah, she has a baby and she has to be quiet. I know that was another thing too. It was like, come on. It was like, why? It's like, why would you have a baby? Exactly. It's like, why would you have a baby and you have to be quiet? Like, why? I don't. But again, like, you're in the world. She's already pregnant. Like, it's already happening. Like, whatever. So they make this area in the basement of their farm, of like a barn, and they pull a mattress over it, and that's supposed to be like a soundproof room for them to stay in. And they don't know if it's going to work because they've never been attacked. Towards the end of the movie, they get attacked, and he puts her down there with the baby, and the monsters can't figure out how to get down. So it's like, oh, okay, so it works. But then they make like this little box. It's like a crib, and they like have this like foam like way that they can like seal it. It's basically just a big Tupperware lid. They're putting their baby in this big Tupperware container to shield its crying from the monsters. And it's just, that's when the movie, it just I know it sounds weird, and it is weird. It's just a lot of weirdness that's all happening at once, because they don't prepare you for any of that. They're just like, hey, like, this room is here and this thing's here and here's where the kid goes and we're all down here now and we're safe. And that gets broken by water coming into the basement, which then goes back to the waterfall. Like, if water's falling in, then the monsters can't hear you and then you're safe again. So there's a foreshadowing. There's another scene where she's standing behind a waterfall and the waterfall goes over her and the monsters can't get to her because the waterfall makes sound. Again, foreshadowing. So it was some of those little moments where I'm like, the water's falling in, it's going right there. I'm like, she's going to go stand behind it and the monster's going to go get her and then I'm not going to be able to hear her. And that's exactly what happened. So it was like little things like that kind of ruined it for me. And it could have easily been like an 8 or a 9. But like seeing how they played it out so much is what kind of brought it down to a 7 for me. So yeah, but like when he sacrificed himself, that was a really good moment. I didn't think they were actually gonna kill him off. I thought he was gonna somehow, because he's the director of the movie. Like if you directed a movie, would you kill yourself off? It's like, no. Like I'd make myself look awesome because I'm the freaking director of the movie. But yeah, so that was surprising that they actually killed him off in the movie. Everyone else is alive. There's a scene where she's walking down the stairs and she snags her laundry. Like she snags a shirt on this nail that like pops up perfectly, like up in the air. It's still lodged in the step of the stairs, but she knocks it straight up, and then it was like, oh god, she's gonna step on the nail later. It's like, oh my god. Later, Toast. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate it. So then she's running away from the monster, and she's trying to be really quiet because the monster hasn't found her yet. And she steps on this nail that's like, I don't know, 2-3 inches long, goes straight into her heel. And it's just like, oh my god. Like it was so tense, you just felt it because there's no sound. There's nothing going on in the movie. It's like that type of atmosphere that makes me just go like, that's why it's good. That's why it's above average. But then in the same point, the monster comes walking down the stairs, and I'm like, oh yes, the movie's goofy enough to make him step on it too. Like, come on, and they didn't do it. He didn't step on it. It's kind of ruined. He went up and down the stairs like 3 times too, and I was like, come on, like just have him step on it once. It'll be super funny. But they didn't do it. So, but I think that's a good review of the movie. That kind of shows you what it's about, shows you some of its shortcomings, but still it's definitely an above average movie that you should go see, and I recommend seeing it in theaters. And I don't before I had the movie pass, I probably would not have saw that movie in theaters. So I'm like, it looks like it's okay, but it doesn't look like it's great. I would recommend, I would pay $10-$12 to see that movie. So I think we can end it there. Like I said, 7 out of 10. Spoilers were kind of, like I said, the movie's a little hokey, but for a first horror movie ever to be put in theaters, it's very good. It's very good and worth seeing. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you on the next fairly good show. Goodbye. Cut it there. You can, so when you're highlighting things, you can highlight down to the second. You can just keep clicking